Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. For those of you who are new here, my name is Derek Redding. I am the owner of Flux Studio and Gallery in Denver, Colorado. And today we've got a really special video. Today we are going to be loading the gas kiln. This is it right behind me. Let's take a closer look. So this is a Geil manufactured kiln. It is soft brick. It has 20 cubic feet of loading space and fires on natural gas. We're gonna go through my stacking technique. I'm gonna talk to you about my shelves, stilts, and the positioning of the stilts, and just some overall tips and general knowledge of how I do things here at the studio. So stick around, let's get started. Okay, I have the wide lens on here so you can get a better view of what's going on. I've put 3 shelves in here just to kind of explain what's going on and what I use. So this shelf over here on your left is a Silica Carbide shelf. This is the workhorse. These are some of my favorite shelves. You get the most use for your money out of a shelf like these. These last forever. The glaze chips off with relative ease if you have any drips. They're very durable, they don't warp. These are just great shelves. These are fantastic. This is a high alumina shelf. It's a little bit thicker, so you're gonna lose space as you go up if you're using an entire kiln load of these shelves. These shelves require a kiln wash on the shelf, something I'm not very fond of doing. That's for a whole other discussion. These shelves are my least favorite. These are the cheapest. Yeah, these are kind of my last choice. I do have a few left, but not my favorite. And here on your right, these are my new shelves. These are Advancer shelves. These are amazing. These are very expensive shelves. These can run you north of $250 per shelf, but I promise you these are worth every penny. The glaze just peels right off. I just put a light coating of alumina hydrate. Nothing plucks, nothing sticks. These don't warp, and they're very skinny. They're very light. These are amazing. I highly recommend these shelves if you're able to budget for those. These are amazing. So that's kind of what I use right now. All of my posts they're all high alumina posts. I don't spend too much money or investment in shelf or in post, excuse me. You can grind these down, you can cut them. They don't really warp, they don't buckle, they don't bend. They're very sturdy and strong. So I'm gonna peel one of these off here real quick. So, stilt placement. As I'm stacking and placement for the post, you can see I have 1, 2, 3 on each shelf. And underneath, I have the shelf elevated 1 inch off the bottom. That's to kind of help with even airflow, and so that the bottom of this gets heated too. If I put this straight down, I have found that you get an uneven airflow, and the bottoms, it does not get quite as hot. So I elevate the shelf off the bottom, and then I place them in a triangle. That's gonna be your strongest base. And also, if I were to put 4 posts in here, it's very hard to balance the shelf without it teetering or rocking. It's much easier to balance it. So this is not only stronger structurally, but also easier to stack. So let's get stacking. Okay, from the start, so this is always very important, guys. When I start this, my bottom shelf, I always leave it much higher because the direction, and I'm gonna turn these burners on for you just so you can kind of see exactly how this thing is heated. But basically the fire travels up, it has to curve back around and come down. So this is a downdraft. So the draft has to go down before it exits the chimney. So, opposite convection, we have to force that hot air to get pushed down. So that's the struggle when trying to evenly heat a kiln like this. So I always put my middle shelf directly in front of the exit or the exhaust above there. So I'm sitting at 9 inches here, and I'm gonna go 8 inches here. So let's start stacking. Okay, so everything, I'm going to start with my tallest stuff first. Everything I'm loading today, everybody, is mostly student work. I have a set of dishes in here, and that is really it. So I'm going to be struggling. I don't have too much tall stuff, but I'm still going to leave, even if I have 4 and 5 inch stuff on this shelf, I'm still going to leave this height here so that I get nice, even airflow throughout, around, and under, pushing that heat down and really trying to get that bottom warm. It's always difficult, and the bottom is always a little bit cooler with these kilns. So here we go. Okay guys, so that was pretty good. So you can see I've got some really low bowls over here, and it is much shorter. I didn't have a lot of work for this load, but I have enough. I need to push it out. A lot of these students glazed this stuff 3 weeks ago, so I need to start pushing it out as quick as I can. You know, pretty straightforward. So now I'm gonna stack my shelves on top there, and we're just gonna keep building. Okay, we've got our first stack on, and once I set these shelves, the next thing I do is I give it a little shake test. I'll put my finger in the middle, and I'm gonna rock it forward and backward and side to side. If there's no movement, that's good. I'm happy. So let's check this one. Okay, this one's rocking a little bit, and I can see this post moving. So all I'm gonna do is just give this a little twist and try and find the place where it bites. And that is looking pretty good. It's really important to have the base nice and firm, because everything, all that weight, it gets heavier and heavier, right? So you need this base to be firm and steady. As I get taller, if I've got a little rocking on the top 1 or 2 shelves, I'm not gonna stress. I will still try to level it and secure it as best I can, but always down at the bottom. Keep these rigid and strong. So as I go up, I'm going to compress the spacing of the shelves. Up here in the middle, I'll condense, you know, I'll get as low as 2 inches, maybe even 1 inch if I want, and then I'll start gapping it back out as I get taller, trying to leave 6-8 inches at the top for nice, circular, even airflow. Okay, upward we go. So you can see sometimes it takes a bit of work lifting and moving and getting those stilts just right, because we need as still as possible. They've got to be steady. The most terrifying thing would be to imagine if, you know, once all this glaze turns to liquid molten glass, if this stack were to collapse, right? That's just, you know, worst case scenario. But if you're cautious and, you know, do the right thing and pay attention, it's going to be just fine. One other thing I'm looking at, guys, is my stilts run all the way down to where I have that shelf elevated off of the bottom. If I were to stack this opposite where it's floating here, this would buckle and crack and possibly lead to catastrophe. So as I go, I'm always making sure that all of my posts are in a vertical, straight, linear line all the way to the foundation. Okay, I'm gonna bump this shelf up to 5 because I am, uh-oh, that shelf's rocking. See that stilt dance? All right, let's get that straightened up real quick. Okay, as the equipment gets older and goes through more firings, you know, I did talk about how these don't warp so much, but let's be honest, everything's warping a little bit. These are just less susceptible to warping and hold a better shape for a longer amount of time. These shelves right now that I have in here, these Carbide shelves, they have gone through probably close to 30 firings at this point. So that little bit, you know, of wobble is totally acceptable in my view and easily mitigated. Okay guys, we're getting pretty close. We say we're just past the halfway mark. The reason this is such a light load is because of how many plates that I have to fit in there. Not only just my plates, but there's a lot of student plates. They're getting really good, and they're getting to the point where they want to make their own dishes and dinnerware, so it's really exciting and they look really nice. But if I have something really special. So these are, I call them my plate stackers, right? And they're just kind of they interlock and stack up on each other, and I can get a plate on the bottom and as many as I want upwards. So this helps conserve a lot of space, because if for a 12-inch dinner plate, this shelf is only 12 inches wide. So once you put a stilt in there, you've lost an inch on either side, and now you're down to 2 10-inch plates is all you can get on one shelf. And so that consumes a tremendous amount of real estate. With these, they go on the shelf, and I can just stack them up as many as I want. I got these from, where did I get these from? These are from Euclid, I think. I really like these ones. They're solid. I have several different sizes, several different styles. These ones I seem to like the best. So if you use these, I've noticed a lot of people, they're marketed to sit like this, right? But in my mind, I said, why would I lose this space here? So I actually fire them this way so that I can get one on the bottom. I've fired these probably close to 30 times, and they haven't warped, they haven't cracked, they haven't buckled or broken or anything. So if you do use these, or you are looking to buy some, I fire them this way and have had no problems whatsoever. So let's stack some plates up. Plates, guys. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my stilt above the plates, and then I'm going to pack in around with everything else that I have left, and we're getting really close. All right, I kind of had to shift some things around here. One of my feet was hanging off a little bit, and I was having a hard time reaching over, so I unstacked this middle one, moved my stilts a little bit better, and now I can reach behind, stack in, and then I'll fill the plates up and carry on. That's pretty good. One more level. I have a bunch of student plates to get up in here. I'm gonna try and save this space for one of my large platters that I have in the studio that hasn't been glazed yet. So we'll see if I run out of room before we get there. But yeah, just a few more plates and we're almost there. Okay guys, so as you can see when loading these, it can be a lot of jockeying and moving things around quite a bit. All right, this guy's a little heavy. Wish me luck. Well, that is a loaded kiln, everyone. So the last thing we have to do is we need to make our cone boats. So let's go inside and I will run you through those real quick. Okay guys, so cone boats, cone packs, whatever you want to call them. It is a pack of cones that you put in the kiln, and it is in a boat. So you may call it whatever you like. This is one that was already torched. What you're seeing here is this puddle was a cone. Can you see that? Let me get real close here. So that was a cone, and then it completely melted and turned to glass, because these are ceramic material. So this cone here, this was 08, that's about 1700 degrees. So then behind that, let's see, we've got a 8, 9, and 10, I believe. You can still kind of read them. So this, let's see, nope, that's an 11. So we got 9, 10, and 11 still standing. So when I say I fired a cone 10, the way to properly read these cones is when they are here, this is their firing position, and then the guard is when it hits about 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending on which way you have the cones pointing on there. So when they hit that bend and it's just sticking straight over, that's how you know what temperature you're at precisely. These cones melt at different temperatures, for those of you who do not know. So when I make my packs, my boats, I always put them in wet when I candle and turn the pilots on for the 12-hour warm-up cycle, and they do just fine. I've never had, in my entire life, my entire career, I've ever had anything bad happen with cone boats, except for when I put the wrong ones in the wrong place and maybe it melted behind one that still needed to go a little hotter, but that's another story. So anyway, let's move on. So to make our cone boat, I just take some clay, pretty good little chunk, and I'm going to kind of roll this into like a tapered like coil. Okay, something kind of like that. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start to dig out like a little spoon, and I'm just kind of pushing in, and almost like a little pinch pot action, just kind of stretching this out. I want it pretty deep because I'm going to do a different pack this time. I'm going to have 2 cones that completely melt on me, and I'll talk about that when we go put these in the kiln. So you want a pretty good and deep spoon. Can you see that? Okay, it's looking pretty good, right? Let's go just a little bit longer. I'm just going to open this up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, I like what we got there. And I want it pretty thin. You know, not that I'm worried about it, but just thinner the better, and it will dry out more quickly. Okay, so we've got our spoon started, our boat. The cones come in boxes, so I use Orton large pyrometric cones. This is not sponsored content, by the way. I don't know that anyone else actually makes cones, pyrometric cones, for this purpose. I've never seen anything but Orton cones. And they come like this, and so when you take them out of the box, you just hold the fat ends and you just twist them apart, just like that. Okay? So I like to lay these out in order, and I'll start with my top, because the top and bottom is going to be a little different. So we've got 08 right there, and we've got an 010, okay, and then we've got a 9, a 10, and an 11. Okay, so this is my top pack right here. Okay, so 08, and here's what's important. So when you have these set properly, it has a back, it has a spine and 2 sides. It's kind of like an isosceles triangle, 2 equal sides and 1 wider side. It also has a bit of a lean to it. Can you see that? I don't think it'll stand without me holding it. Okay, so it has a little bit of a lean when it's standing straight. So when I put these in, each of these cones has the number that it is. And so I'm going to start with my 010 and watch all the numbers. I'm just going to press it in pretty straight. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, 010, number facing out. 08, right behind it. Okay, make sure it's in line. Make sure they're pretty parallel. And you don't want them leaning way over like this, because as they stand, remember that lean, as they stand, they already have kind of a natural bend to them. So if you stand it up like this, you're going to get an inaccurate reading. The same as if you have it leaned way over, it's going to read quicker, right? It's going to fall because gravity is going to help pull that down. So make sure they're standing at their levelest possible spot. Okay, 010, 08, and then we're going to put a 9 right behind that. Okay, and I'm making sure that they're all in line. All the numbers are facing the same way. They're nice and flat. Okay, check. And then, let's see, are we going to put these in here? Let's go. You know what? We're going to do a separate little boat for those, and I'll show you why once we get them to the kiln. And I don't even need a boat per se, because these are not going to turn to glass. They're going to end up white and firm like this. So I'm just going to take a small coil, and I'm going to take my 10 facing out and my 11 and facing out. And the reason I have this in two separate holders, boats, packs, whatever you want to call them, is because when they're in the kiln and I have this long train, I have a very small peephole that I can see into. So what I will do is, rather than putting them in line, is I will stagger them, right? So these three will drop, and then I'll have these two in plain view. Okay, does that make sense? All right, there's that one. Let's make one more. And this one will have a couple that melt down into glass. So we want a good spoon for this one. Okay, got our tapered coil. Just start digging that out a little bit. Just start forming that up. Okay, it doesn't have to be pretty. If you want to get artistic and fancy and have some fun boats, I've seen some people do it, make some big dragon cone boats and sculptural type things, and those are a lot of fun, but I personally am not going to take the time to do that. So just something that gets the job done. Okay, that one should work. And in this one, I only have 4, and I will put all 4 of these in here. So again, 010. Okay, 08. Check. Make sure those are good and straight. And then we're gonna go 9. So 9, here's my 9. Okay, and 10. And this is my bottom pack. This is my bottom pack because I will be very fortunate if cone 10 falls. It will get close. I always hit a light cone 10, but I don't think I'm ever quite getting there. It's very difficult to get that bottom to be even with the top. Always, 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 especially when you've got a really densely packed kiln. Okay, let me grab a needle real quick. Okay, needle. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna lance this all up. Can you see all the pock marks and the holes in this guy? So that's just to give me, that's an insurance policy basically, to make sure that this thing dries. Okay, there are our cone boats. Not too pretty. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, because after I've moved them and messed with them a bunch, my cones sometimes get a little squirrely. So I'm going to just look down the spine and make sure everything is straight, because what you don't want to have are these cones falling off sideways, because they're usually pretty close to a bunch of pots. So I want to make sure, and I also want to make sure the ones that are going to turn to glass are going to fall where they are designed to fall. Okay, so that is that. Out to the kiln. All right, guys, last cone boat going in. I like to call them boats, just sounds cooler than a pack. I don't know. So they are in. I'm gonna grab this camera and kind of move it around a little bit. Okay, so here's our stack. Let me back on up a little bit. Good. And then down here, so there's one on the top, and then we've got one on the bottom. And where those are located corresponds to the peepholes in the door. So I can get an idea of where the top is in relation to the bottom. So this kiln does have a digital thermometer. However, if I were to go by it solely, I would likely have some issues, as it is inaccurate at times. It can be, before I hit reduction, it might be 150 degrees hotter than what the cones say. So no matter what, I always recommend, even if you use a digital kiln or have some kind of pyrometer or heat measuring device of any kind, I definitely recommend using cone packs, just to give you, that witness of temperature. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed watching us load the kiln today. Learned a few things. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Throw it up in the comments. Send me an email, direct message, anything you guys like. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. If it were a little darker outside, I'd light it up so you guys could really see the fire and see this thing glow, but unfortunately it's a little too bright to see the fire, but rest assured it will get hot. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you again. We'll see you later.